Hello everyone, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. I don't want anything else from this world anymore. Just freedom. I don't want any better circumstances. Just freedom. I don't care about the future. Just freedom. The life of this body doesn't belong to me anymore. It's just for freedom. So once again, welcome. Just reminding that we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions directly to me. The number appears on the comments, and it makes communication a lot more easier. So the subject for today, it is an important topic, not very famous one, but crucial one. I have spoken about this maybe once or twice, and I will speak about it again a little bit more deeply, or through some other aspects. And the subject is redemption. Why is this important? Well, redemption is at the core of the spiritual process. It's the igniting factor besides thirst, motivation. Redemption is what makes it possible. Well, it's interesting, the mindset that it is observed today in seekers of truth. It's like it's a vision of kings on top of mountains that choose whatever they think it's best. But this comes from a naive point of view, from blindness, really. And there's a lot of reasons why this happens. Well, when there's no redemption, when it's not possible, when you're not seeing things, when arrogance prevails, and all of these characteristics, usually a blessing is not seen as a blessing because it's not a privilege, it is a right. So it doesn't bear the same fruit. To exemplify this, in these last decades, well, seekers have been flooded by messages of compassion, of encouragement, by light beings and others that are not so light, but that's so bright, but that's another question, doesn't matter, because message is more or less the same, vibration is different. But the message, and now I'm just focusing on that message. The encouragement, inciting you to follow spirituality and this and that. And this increasing, so many voices pushing the same thing. It gives humanity the idea of being special in some way, that it is being called, not realizing that that is compassion working. Not because of merit, but because of compassion. And why so many voices voicing the same thing? Because things went downhill a lot, too much. So in a way, that compassion has brought the opposite result of what was intended, because it was not received from the humble place where you reflect about your life, what are you doing with your time? You incorporate it. Because, well, if the message was given in a clear way, probably it wouldn't be very popular, but at the same time, probably wouldn't create so much confusion. So which one is best doesn't matter. What it matters is that I will not say never, but this is a time where redemption is one of the most necessary things. And it is there at all moments of the spiritual quest. If you're in the beginning, all the difficulties that you go through in a sincere way before the life of the process begins, there will be pain, there will be suffering involved. And this is a way of redemption, of redeeming yourself. Even if it is just with the pain that you have caused to others. So it is lived in a sense to redeem yourself. But there are other levels of redemption. But it is always redemption. Redemption is the trigger that makes it possible. First, you have to want it a lot. There must be the thirst there. The motivations have to be more or less, because, well, it's a minimum required, because there's a lot to be worked on after it, after that life comes. And then there's the levels of those who have called and called for guidance, for the life of the process. And then they are faced with a test, something that is there to make them go higher. And they give up. Then the level of redemption, it's quite different. And depends, because, for example, if you give up, but in a humble way, acknowledging your weaknesses, it is one level. If you masquerade all of it and change the script according to your need, that's a different level of redemption. But it's always redemption. Seekers usually, well, they take a long time to understand a few basic things. I've seen seekers that have been years and years into the quest, writing a lot of things and flooding the internet with a lot of rubbish, and nothing, just dead on the inside. And for example, for these ones, it is a different level of redemption because of all that has been done. So eventually, when they understand and they see, they have a clear vision of what is the quest for truth, what is demanding, they get frightened, they get scared. They understand the difficulties. It has taken time, but eventually they understand the difficulties. And usually what they do is, confronted by their own fears, they tend to embrace baby steps. I'm like, whoa, this is good, this is a beginning. But in this case, the level of redemption is much higher. So those baby steps will not make any difference. And what will happen eventually? You will give those baby steps, you will invest more time into it, and you will end up in the same place, frustration. But why is that? Well, in the first place, because usually you don't appreciate this kind of message, you ignore it. Because if you would listen to it, it would save you time. But you prefer the more positive messages, the ones that make you feel good and enhance your emotions. The more you know, the bigger the responsibility. So in this situation, baby steps, they will not be enough. So you will go by cycles. You will do these investments, you will have the difficulties of them, but still no life in the process. And you will have to start again until it is clear. But it's not because you weren't told. Eventually, the message comes, but is ignored. Because, well, you have choices, so you think. And this makes suffering increase and increase and reaching a height, the height needed for that redemption. So the suffering will not escape, if you're lucky, if there's still hope for you, but time will be wasted, a lot of time. And for example, imagine that you've passed this stage, life has come, guidance has come, and of course, this is not the end, it is the beginning. The next step has come, and weakness, and still the set of the ideas of choice, of personal importance, of all these things prevail. And instead, okay, it was too much, I'm not strong enough for that, but I'm going to continue working on this until I go through. That's an attitude, honorable one. But this is not right for me, I will take it slower and this and that. This is disrespect. Not disrespect to something else, but to yourself, to the pain that you have endured to arrive at that point. The level of redemption here is higher. It has to be more intense. So whatever you have given up, you will have to go through, that is for sure. And with an extra. Extras will be added. And that redemption, well, probably the majority of seekers would be looking at it as punishment for wrongdoing. But the real punishment is the absence of contact with the divine. And it's not really a punishment, but it can be seen that way. Because if you're not interested, not enough, if you're satisfied where you are, so no point for anything else. So that redemption is the last blessing. It is still possible. Sometimes it seems impossible, but it isn't. It may seem. Even if it's 1 in a million, it's still one. For the seeker of truth, that is enough. He just needs one. Mind plays a lot of games and tricks. The wise man doesn't trust his mind. That's why he trains it to maintain it silent, as a tool, not as a ruler, as a tool. Because if you believe in it, well, you will have a very different vision of the world. And you will know only one thing: nothing's happening. Okay, you had some experiences, some nice and bad, but it's not growing. You will not know what that means, the spiritual process, growing or becoming alive, or any of these things. You will not know what that means exactly, but you will know that it's not growing. Nothing's happening. You can resume to this. In the beginning, yes, experiences, this and that, synchronicities, this baby stuff. But eventually, as you go through that, you will see that, okay, so the flashes, the lights have turned on, now they are normal, but where's the rest? You will just know that there's nothing else there. The more you are distracted with worldly life, the less you will have that vision. The less you are distracted with worldly life, the more you will have that vision. So if you're in that situation, that nothing is happening, despite your best efforts, well, for sure, some things are happening. You have been putting aside the suffering that came into your direction, and whatever is there, you're not taking it. Your outlook to your spiritual process is not in its right place. You see it as a right, not as a blessing. You see yourself more than worthy, instead of making yourself worthy. So it's not that God is not looking at you. It is you who has your backs turned. And redemption is the key. So whatever you have been doing, you will have to redeem yourself accordingly. For professional seekers, whatever that means, I call it professional in the sense that the quest has become the life, but it's still a worldly life, even with a spiritual quest, because it has been adapted, it has become a way of life in the form, not in the core, not in the content. And this life is so important, so part of that character, that you can even reach the point of guidance, of interacting with guidance, being blessed by guidance. But the preservation of that character is much more important. So when the test comes and it is too much, sometimes it turns against guidance. So I will follow some other guidance. I will continue my path. So let's see it clearly. So you have stopped in that point, knowing where guidance has pointed, and you are continuing your path. What does that mean? Only in your head. Because it is about salvaging the character, preserving it. It's much easier than dealing with failure, much easier, but less productive. Very, much less productive. So a different level of redemption. And the level keeps getting higher. And the reason because of it is each time you hesitate, the distance increases. Your hesitancy is a step backwards, so distance is bigger. So to jump a bigger distance, you will need much more energy. So it is with redemption. The more distant you become, more intensity you will need. Because there's no turning back. It's more or less a straight line. So whatever tests are in front of you, you will have to go through in a straight line. When you deviate, it doesn't matter how many time it passes. You'll be just trying to get to that same point. You may imagine that you have chosen another path. The character has been preserved along with this quest because it is a part. But you're just waiting, trying to arrive at the same place. The more your mind gets sophisticated, the more you think you can outsmart things, the more intense redemption will have to be. So for those who time is important, only for those who are very thirsty and time matters, if there's nothing happening, if you're blocked somewhere, or even if you haven't seen the life of the process beginning, then be sure of it, redemption is needed. There's no easy path, no difficult path, there's the needed path. If what you needed was what you wanted in the way that you wanted it, you would already recognize it. But usually the ideas are very far out. More so that what you need is the opposite of what you believe, and the remedy that can save you tastes bitter. but produces sweetness. And the remedies that you are so fancy of, they taste sweet and produce bitterness and emptiness. But they taste sweet. And eventually, sweetness is what you're looking for. Maybe not with that name, but similar. So if it tastes bitter, so it must be wrong, right? Wrong. So remember this word, redemption, to redeem yourself. It is crucial and it is there present at all levels, more or less. At least in the beginning, in the middle, and in the long run. Different levels, different levels of redemption. And if by any chance you get in front of guidance, guidance comes to you, you find it, whatever. Respect it. And doesn't matter, whatever is in front of you, if it is being brought to you, it's because it's possible and needed. Confusion comes when stages are jumped. This is where confusion comes. Where a lot of things go sideways. Because these words are for seekers of truth. Or for those yet to be, but with the potential, with the proposal of being seekers of truth. And stages cannot be jumped. It starts by you going within, intensifying your meditation, devoting your time to it, asking for guidance, praying for that guidance, purifying yourself for it, working hard for that. Then appointing a meeting, doesn't matter how it happens. Guidance will come to you. And with that experience, then surrender begins, the process of surrender. Because if you jump the stages, if guidance has to come, it will come. You can even bump with it, but you will not be able to see it or respect it. And even more important, to trust it. Because, okay, you have chosen with your mind. Oh, this master, that master, because of this and this and that. Your greed, your spiritual greed, takes you to that master, for example. It can be your master or not. That is from... But if you went through greed, that which is taking you there will take you away also. But more important, it will be much, much, much more difficult to trust because it came from here. If you intensify your process, if you distrust your mind and look in your heart for that indication, whatever it comes, as a divine experience, then you may distrust it also, but that's your problem because now you have something which is concrete to hold on to. You didn't jump the stages. Because if you're just going and reasoning and choosing this and that, this is nothing. Nothing. It's like looking for food with your eyes covered, your nose covered, your mouth covered. You may even stumble into food eventually by accident, but your mouth is covered. You will not be able to eat it, nor see it. So stages shouldn't be jumped. Redemption. Remember this word. Okay. So that's it for today. Next satsang will be Wednesday, 9 a.m. in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Until then, make the best use of your time. Watch.